everyone, this is Miles Prower, but you can call me Tails, and tonight I will be reading Sesame Street, Big Bird Behind the Beak. This apparently is a lost episode creepypasta based on Sesame Street. This was found by cjaymarch Wikipedia. This apparently has some good lost episode creepypastas, but this one, ooh, I bet this one is going to be pretty good. So, without further ado, let's get this started. Can you tell me how to get to Sesame Street? No, I mean really, can you? I heard it was a real place. My understanding of the original program, which is still in syndication today, is that Sesame Street was a real street in New York, where a lot of people mysteriously disappeared. There are some things I'm not under legal disclosure to talk about here, but the truth is that there's something very dark and decrepit under the inner city sewers where Sesame Street was originally filmed. The show was meant to inspire poor, lower-middle-class urban children to do things, such as learn basic shapes and counting. But a lot of people don't know about the subliminal mind program that large media corporations use to train children to be obedient at a young age. I'm kind of warning you that what you're about to learn is going to mentally scar you. You've probably seen this tape. It's embedded into your mind. If you think carefully, you can remember seeing it. We've all seen it at least once in America. It airs at times on a static tonal frequency, which can only be detected by children ages 1 to 3. What that basically means is that the visuals and sounds can only be interpreted by a child. To an unassuming adult, it only looks like the kid is staring at a black screen. You ever hear a kid crying about a hallucination? A monster in a closet? Or someone watching them in the bedroom window? Allow me to unfold the layers of your mind and remind you of what you saw. You didn't understand it. It just left a feeling of terror in your heart that followed you into adulthood. They want it that way. Big Bird starts by wandering out into the street. He's very dirty. He is at a distance, but there's a visible smile on his beak. There's an overlay of children dancing in Beijing, with Big Bird standing there in a tie. Something was off about Big Bird. It's really hard to tell what it is. The show broke the fourth wall by talking to an audience, but here, it would probably say your name. 50 most popular baby names in America were layered over each other, with millisecond pauses and enough spacing so the child would hear his or her name. How's it going, Michael, Jim, Steve, Dave, John, Eric, Riley, Matthew? The slithering whisper is dreamlike. It's now easy to notice that the streets of Sesame Street are very dirty. Garbage, insects, filth, rodents, and hamburger buns lay in the street. The sewer lines are open and filthy water is flowing down the dirty gutters. Though it was supposed to be in the 1970s, the camera fidelity is much more lucid. There was a strip club, but you didn't know what that was at the time. You remember this, don't you? When Big Bird put his hand on your shoulder, don't repress it. Are you confused? A voice said. Big Bird was slowly walking down the street. The camera was on an axis, and turned to face a window. 2 men are arguing rather loudly about who spilled coffee on the sofa. It's hard to make them out, though their skins are tinted yellow and orange. One of them, with a look of paranoia, sees the camera and draws the blinds. Big Bird is still wandering down the road. "It's taken me so long to arrive," Big Bird says. "Where are all the people?" the voice says. "People? People? I am the people," says Big Bird. It was some strange man who resembled both a man and a bird. His oblong knees were distorted and painted orange. He was covered in glued-on feathers, punchy around the center. Eyes were bloodshot, mouth open to reveal row after row of sharp, sanded human teeth. "Surprise!" it whispers. Face disheveled, eyes are bloodshot, smile is covered in beer stubble. Its head envelopes the camera. As a kid, you might have been confused and started crying right now. The camera, which is at about the eye level of a child, acts like a person viewpoint. It runs in the other direction, down the road. "Eat me!" the giant bird yells, shambling down the road angrily, shooting weird balloons out of his gullet that explode into splashes of bile. "Eat me!" Running down the road now, reaching a set of garbage cans. An angry homeless man painted green is seen in the garbage can. He's covered in insects and spaghetti. "What the bleep you want?" he yells, throwing a beer bottle down that smashes violently. He didn't know what the word was at the time. You want to learn something, kid? I'll teach you a stinking word," he says. The camera zooms into his face, where horrible herpes scars have destroyed his entire right jaw. He gulps down an entire bottle of wine, smashes it, and started chasing after you. No wonder he's so grouchy. The camera starts to run down an alley, removes the boards from a boarded-up window, and jumps through. The Birdman was coming through. He was shrinking violently. The building was filled with smoke. You heard Whisper counting. 1, 2, 3, All of a sudden, a vampire man with fangs bites into your shoulder. His face is clearly distorted, and it's a Halloween costume. The camera gestures, throwing the vampire back. It's almost as if you are a human with a head for a TV. Or that's what the character in the TV is. You can see the body as the camera pans down and he bites into your thigh. Hundreds of bats envelope the screen. You lay there while the camera moves around. When the camera becomes coherent again, Big Bird is at the window, smiling at you. His eyes are glistening. It's just the sound of screaming as hundreds of people outside bang on the door. Hands try to get in and grab you. Maybe it was meant to tell kids what to do when they see a stranger. The camera runs down the hallways, jumps over a lattice on the 5th story of an apartment complex and reaches the roof. There's a hole leading downward, as though it's been worn in. You go down there. Inside, there's an obese, naked blue man shoving cookies down his throat. "Give me cookies!" he yells. He dislocates his jaw and shoves pound after pound of cookies down his throat. He's hairy and developed a rash. His naked flesh is glued to the floor. He hasn't moved in years. He picks up a knife and stabs himself in the belly. Highly realistic gore, including bile from the cookies, spills out everywhere. "Feed me more!" he yells. He continues to eat while the peristalsis of his intestines causes the excess half-digested food to spew out of his belly. He starts to eat himself, biting off his lips and eyes, digesting himself down to nothing. A blue mass of hovering flesh lay on the floor. You could hear crying now. You were probably crying yourself. And that's where I'll stop here for this first part. Stay tuned in the next video to find out what happens next in Sesame Street Big Bird Behind the Beak.